Make your bracelets fit like a glove. Hi, welcome, my name's Carol. A couple of weeks ago when I did my 5 bracelets tutorial, I got a really interesting question and I thought I would address it today. The question was, how do I measure my bracelet and take the clasp into account? So how do I make sure that I've got enough room for the clasp to fit, but also have my bracelet not too big? And I thought I'd address that because it's something that I always struggled with when I first started too, and I think it's worth discussing. So in the process of discussing that, we're going to make a bracelet. Seem to be on a bit of a bracelet kick lately. And I'm going to walk you step by step through the process of making it, as well as talk about everything you need. So let's get making. What I have in front of me are the materials we're going to be using. So I'll talk about those first, and then what I'll do is I'll talk about the technique that I'm going to use once we get to that point in making the bracelet. I thought it was time I did something really nice and bright and airy for spring. So this is why I'm using these beautiful bright colours, the purple and the pink. And I've also always wanted to use this bead here, so I thought that I would use it today. It seemed like a really good excuse. So starting with that bead, it is a 28mm acrylic oval, and it is in the colour purple. Next I have some rondelles. These are rondelle wheels and they are 9mm. Then I have some check glass faceted beads, and these ones are 10mm and the colour is silver. Then I've got some 8mm crackle beads in the colour magenta. Next in the beads I have some 6mm check glass pressed faceted beads with coloured lining, and those ones are 6mm as well. Then I've got some 6mm acrylic bicones, and interspersed here I have some 5mm beaded rondelles. Now I initially tried this with 4mm beaded rondelles and it didn't look right, so obviously 1mm makes all the difference. As well as that, I've got a couple of other beads here. I've got 2 more of the acrylic bicones and I've got 2 more of the lined beads. And I've got a couple of 4mm check glass beads as well, faceted, because I don't know yet how long I'm going to make my bracelet. As well as that, I have a couple of magical crimps because I'm going to be using my magical crimping tool. I've got a couple of wire guardians, and I'll talk about why I need those later. I've got 2 6mm jump rings and a lobster clasp, and I have some tiger tail. I've also got a bead stopper to stop the beads falling off my tiger tail as I'm stringing. Let's get started. I'll talk you through making this, and then as we go through, I'll talk about the process of measuring, which is what we're actually going to be talking about today, which we're actually here for. First thing I'm going to do is cut some tiger tail. This is a 0.38mm tiger tail in the colour silver. So I'm just taking my flush cutters and chopping a piece off, put that out of the way. And I'm going to put my bead stopper on first because that will stop my beads falling off. Now if you haven't seen one before, it's like a big spring. And all you do is put your wire in there, let it go, and it stops everything falling off. Okay, so I'm going to start at this end and just string on my beads. So starting with my beaded rondelle. By the way, what I will do is leave you in the description box below. The top link will take you to a blog post, and in that blog post will not only be step-by-step instructions, it will have links to everything that you need to make this bracelet. As well, I'll leave you a layout diagram because that makes things easier so that you can see exactly how I've laid out the beads and how I've strung them on. I'm just going to string these beads on, and you don't need to watch me doing that because all I'm doing is feeding beads onto my wire. But while I'm doing that, if you're interested in making the jewellery that I'm wearing today, the necklace that I'm wearing is my boho necklace that I made a while ago, and I will leave you a link in the description box to the tutorial for that. And the bracelet that I'm wearing is my focal bracelet, and I'll leave you a link for the tutorial for that one too. And I'm not wearing any earrings today. I thought the necklace needed to stand alone. Now I have my beads threaded on. You'll notice one thing, that basically they've gotten shorter. So the bead design board which I'm using, if you haven't seen one before, these are absolutely integral for making bracelets and necklaces, because what it allows you to do is lay out your beads in the channel here. This one has centimetre measurements, but you can get them with inches as well. You'll see that my bracelet is measuring about 7.5 on each side, so it's about 15 centimetres. Now if I measure around my wrist, it measures about 16 centimetres. To make the bracelet absolutely fit me tightly, it would need to be 16 centimetres, but I probably don't want my bracelet fitting me so tightly, because if it's too tight, it won't be able to move. So what I'm going to do is pop my other end of my tiger tail into my bead stopper as well, like that. And then I'm going to put it on my wrist. And I'm going to get an idea of how big this bracelet is, because we know in measurements, but it's always good to check. So I need to make sure that my beads are all down. There's no gaps, which there isn't. And you can see there, I've probably got maybe a centimetre. The beads want to keep coming up. What I'm going to do is twist it. There we go. So you can see there, I've probably got about a centimetre gap, maybe a little bit more. Now I have to decide how I'm going to fill that centimetre. So if I take my clasp, I'm going to put it together and I'm going to measure it. So I'm just going to pop this out of the way for a minute. And I'm going to take my 2 jump rings. So I've got 2 6mm jump rings here. And I'm going to take 2 pairs of chain nose pliers, and I'm going to, well, I would open my jump ring, but it's actually already opened. I like it when that happens. So if you haven't used jump rings before, I will leave you a link in the description box to a video all about jump rings. With that jump ring already open, I'm going to feed on the loop of my lobster clasp and close up my jump ring. There it is. And next I've got another jump ring here, and I want to make sure this one's really well closed, because this is the one that the lobster clasp is going to do up into. Now you could use a soldered jump ring here if you wanted to. So that one's nicely closed, and what I'm going to do next is put my lobster clasp on there. Now I'm going to take my ruler, turn it around the right way, and I'm going to hold each of the jump rings with my pliers. There we go. And what I'm going to do is just lie it down there and measure it. I'm not sure if you can see this, but it starts at 12 and it goes to 14. So it is actually 2 centimetres. So by putting this together like this before I put it on my bracelet, it allows me to decide whether or not I want any more beads on there. My bracelet already measures 15 centimetres. And if I'm adding 2 centimetres, my bracelet will now be 17 centimetres. So I think that that will be the right size for me. I had 2 more of the acrylic bicones, and I had 2 more of the lined beads, and I also had these little silver beads here. These were 4mm, remember? Just thinking that if I didn't need an extra 6mm bead, I might use an extra 4, but as it turns out, I probably don't need either, so that's cool. All right, so we're going to go and put this clasp on now. If you haven't made a bracelet or a necklace before using crimp beads, I'll leave you a link to the bracelet video that I did just recently, but it's the same process, but I did lots of different ways in that video. I am going to take my crimp tube, I'm going to thread it on, and then I'm going to put on my wire guardian. You can see there, it's like a little horseshoe. And the wire comes up through one side, around the loop and back down the other side. And what this does is it protects the wire. It also makes it fatter so that if you're using a jump ring, the wire won't go through the jump ring. So I am going to pop that on, threading up through one side and back down through the other side. You can see there, like that. I'm just going to pull it down. And now I'm going to put on the jump ring of my clasp. And I'm just feeding that up through that loop. Now I need to pull everything down, but I can do that in a minute. And where's my crimp bead gone? Way down here. So I'm going to thread my crimp tube up onto both of my pieces of tiger tail and pull it up. Now remember that also your crimp tube and the loop and everything will add a few extra millimeters as well. I'm going to squeeze my wire guardian together a little bit just with my fingers. It just brings everything closer, and I'm going to put that crimp tube all the way up to the wire guardian. Then I'm going to take my magical crimping tool and I'm going to give it a squeeze. I'm going to turn it, give it another squeeze. And I'm going to do that a couple of times just till I get my crimp tube looking like a bead. And that's what I have now. Now I could thread this wire back down through some of my beads, and I actually really like to do that, kind of hide that tail like that. Now I'm going to cut off the short piece of tiger tail, so the short end. And run all my beads up to the other end. So that is what my bracelet looks like now. You can see it's got the crimp and the little wire guardian all tucked in nicely there. I would really like to take a moment to thank everyone who has commented lately and also subscribed. I really love reading the comments. It is so fantastic and I really appreciate your kind words. And I also really appreciate those of you who subscribe. So if you're interested in seeing more of my tutorials, make sure you do that. Hit that notification bell. That way YouTube knows that you want to see me. And also if you're enjoying this one at the end, then give me that thumbs up for the like. Next, I'm going to repeat that for the other end. So I'm basically putting the crimp tube on, the wire guardian, and that other jump ring. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I'm feeding my tiger tail back down through my crimp tube and through a couple of my beads. Now feeding it back down through the beads is entirely personal preference. I personally like to do it, but you don't have to. So what you're aiming for here is to have your everything pulled up nice and tight, but you still want it to be able to move. So once you get to that point, you can squeeze your wire guardian together, then come in with your magical crimper. Now if you don't have a magical crimping tool, that's okay. You can crimp it in the traditional way, and I will leave you a link in the description box below for a video on 3 ways to crimp as well. Alright, so it took me a minute to get it all pulled up, but there it is. And I'm going to give it a squeeze with my magical crimping tool and turn it. Now I do find the magical crimping tool a little challenging to use when you're using a wire guardian, just because there's not much space in there. Now that I've done that, I'm going to trim off my tiger tail. Make sure the end gets tucked in. Before I show you my bracelet finished, I want to show you how to use a toggle clasp in the same way. I've already put a toggle clasp with some tiger tail attached with the crimps. And what I'm going to do is measure it. So if you were doing this on a bracelet, you could do it this way, or you could just pull it apart. It's just easier for me to show you this using the tiger tail rather than holding it with my pliers. I haven't used the jump rings. I could have used a jump ring if I wanted to, but you don't need to with this clasp because it has loops already. So when I measure that, it still measures about 2 centimeters. So it's about the same size as my lobster clasp, including my 2 jump rings. Obviously, if I was using a 4mm jump ring for my lobster clasp, it would be shorter. So you do need to measure it every time. I'm going to interrupt you before I show you my final piece to tell you about my private membership group here on YouTube. It allows you more access to me, basically. If you are interested in seeing a live every month, getting early access to the tutorials, and for the top tier they get a Zoom call with me as well. I will be uploading extra projects and images and things like that for you. And it's just a way for us to connect. So if you're interested in that, just click that join button. It would be wonderful, and I would love to have you join the community. I know the others would as well. Okay, so there is my bracelet, and as you can see, there's the clasp. And I actually did add probably about 6mm on either side for using the wire guardian. So maybe you might want to take that into account as well. There it is, just in case you want to see it up high and round that way as well. So what do you think about this technique? Do you think it will be useful for you? I would really love to hear about that in the comment section below. For me, it was an issue. And recently I made a bracelet for my sister. And she messaged me when she got it, because it was for her birthday, and she said, unfortunately, it was too big for her because she has tiny wrists. I thought my wrists were tiny, but hers was like 15 centimetres, so a whole centimetre smaller. So while I made it to fit me, thinking her wrists were the same size, it was too small. Someone else asked me, how do I make bracelets for a gift if you don't know the person's size? So there's a couple of things you can do. For a person who you think might be smaller, you can add some jump rings close to the clasp. Maybe you add a couple of jump rings into the design of the bracelet, and that way they can do it up into, if you use a lobster clasp that is, they can do it up into the other jump rings. And if you think it might be too big, what you can do is add a little extender chain. Now I wouldn't add a very big extender chain, maybe 2-3 centimeters at the most, because there's nothing worse than having an extended chain hanging down here and it bangs on everything and it gets caught on everything. I can't remember who left that comment, but I hope it was useful. And remember to check out the top link in the description box below, which will take you to the blog post, which will contain links to all of the materials that I used, a step-by-step instructions, and also a layout diagram. Also, you might want to check us out on Facebook and Instagram as well. And hit that subscribe button with the notification bell, that way you'll never miss anything, and give me a thumbs up if you like this one. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon.